All right, I want to be respectful of all of your time. I am having trouble with words today, but we'll get through this. Thank you again, ladies. I'm always super humbled by this experience and opportunity to be able to share with you some of my learnings and share with you this journey towards life coaching. I hope that you all continue to enjoy it. And we're going to get started today with the topic of decisions and decision making and how it sort of drains your energy to not be efficient with how you make decisions. So, as I mentioned, the process of making a decision is very, very draining. I mean, we sometimes spend our time in the thoughts of, I don't know, or I'm not sure, or maybe, or I'm thinking about it. I mean, we've all been there. We all have decisions to make, and often we linger too long in that. And, we just let these thoughts linger, and they end up looping and looping around, whether we're consciously thinking about them in that very moment or not. They're still sort of there in the background, looping themselves over and over again. And so what I just want to make clear is that a lot of the times, we're sitting there in these thoughts, and whether they're small thoughts about the day or they're larger thoughts about, decisions we should make in life, like, should I go back to school and get my doctorate? Should I get married? Should I start this relationship? Should I join a book club? Should I go on vacation? Should I look for a new job? Should I decide to lose weight? They just sit there and they meander and it's really frustrating, because the truth is that it's really inefficient. I mean, it takes up all this energy, but it produces absolutely zero results. So just remember that the next time that you realize you have to make a decision, whether it's something that's already on your mind or something new that comes up because of something that has happened or an opportunity has shown up, remember that the actual process of making the decision produces absolutely zero results. So we want to get out of that decision loop process and quicker into, all right, I've made a decision and it's time to take action. And so you want to move on and figure out what that learning is. And so the big question that I put through my head was, why do we let ourselves be consumed by this decision energy that produces zero results? And the reality is, and it was kind of a hard pill to swallow for me and to practice this method, was a lot of the times we think that when we're making the decision is either going to be right or it's going to be wrong. And that's a very hard frame of reference to start teaching yourself, is that when you have to make a decision, there is no right or wrong decision. What ends up happening is that you end up just being influenced and deciding that you're going to take on the framework of what others have structured into this box to say, if you make these decisions, that's right. If you make these decisions, those are wrong. And a lot of that is framed by society. And I've talked about this in other segments as well, that we end up being way too heavily influenced by those things that are surrounding us in our exterior versus looking internally for what's motivating and what's driving our own decisions. So, it's hard to think about it that way, but it's true. When you think about making a decision, there is no right or wrong decision. It's just a decision, and you're going to learn from it, and you're going to adapt from the experiences that you're going to gain from making that decision. And so I want to sort of narrow in and share with you that you really just need to give yourself permission to learn. A lot of the times we are not even sure about what part of the decision would be pleasurable to us. We are not exactly always sure what we like, because we haven't made enough decisions in life on our own terms, by our own standards, to understand what it is that we truly love and appreciate. So it's really important that you take this opportunity, that you give yourself the right to learn, that you give yourself the right to explore what it is that you might be interested in. And so, when I've worked with clients, some of the opportunities have been around understanding why we make those decisions, right? I have a client that I'm super excited about. She came to me in January, and we were talking about her decision to apply to an MBA program. And it was just really shocking to me, and I think it's because I come from a place of confidence in believing that you can get into your dream school, and you don't have to have the perfect scores, and you don't have to have the perfect everything. You just kind of have to have the perfect vision for what that tool or resource is going to provide to your life and how it's going to enable you and how you can give back and make an impact in the world because of that university, right? And so what she was deciding to do was not apply to a top program. Why? Because her family and people in her community encouraged her not to apply to a strong school out of high school for undergrad. So she was carrying that weight of the decision of not to apply to a target university all the way since high school. Someone told me that I wasn't good enough then, so I'm telling myself as a grown woman, single mom, that I don't have what it takes to now do that again in my MBA. And we really, really pushed hard against that. And the great news is that she powered through it and she got into that top program. But it's really important to understand that you have to give yourself this permission to think about, what are my own parameters on how I view this decision? And again, there's no right or wrong answer. Decisions are just small points in life where you're choosing to go down a certain path, and it's not the right path or the wrong path. And so as we move deeper into that, it could be not only school, but think about, why am I not asking for more money at the office? Why am I not asking for that promotion? Or maybe it looks like that other person, she's more likable, she tends to get more projects that people enjoy. But when you're not asking and you're not understanding what your opportunities are, you just keep making these default decisions without knowing the truth, right? The best thing you could do is ask why, right? And one of my last sessions, I always ask, make sure you keep asking why and why and why until you get to the root cause. So I just want to remind you, ladies, that give yourself permission to learn. Get out there and explore and try to understand what it really, really is that that you like, and stop falling into the cookie cutter of what is right and what is wrong, because there is no right and wrong. I can't emphasize that enough. And again, like I said, it took me a while to start realizing that every decision I made was not a right or wrong decision. It was just a decision that was going to enable me and teach me something, and I was going to grow from it. The next thing I want to talk about is, do not be afraid to lose on purpose. You'll learn, right? This is a big thing in entrepreneurship, right? Just get out there and fail. Like, learn the business. Get over, getting so tied into the name of the business and the perfect logo. Like, get out there and fail, improve to see if there's really a market that wants your product. It's the same thing with your life. Like, don't be afraid to make some scary decisions. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and fail. And it's fine, because if you put yourself out there to fail, you're going to start learning what feels right and what feels wrong, and do not be afraid to fail. And I know it's really hard to think about, people around you are going to be making judgment calls, they're going to see you. But when you're on your own grind and you have like your own vision, you can let those naysayers see what you're doing and say, oh, those decisions don't fit into this box, Avilia. Like, what are you doing? But you're out here roaming around while everyone is just staying still in fear of, I don't want to make decisions outside of this box because I'm not sure it's right or wrong. While you're going to be just exploring your life and trying to understand, what is it that I want from this life? What is it that I want to feel and embrace and enjoy about the decisions that I'm making? What I really want to also emphasize is that there's something really powerful in regret. So I love the thought of regret. Not that I like having experiences that make me regret. I like to get in front of the experiences with the thoughts of regret. So there are two types of regrets. The first regret is a fear of failure, right? I'm gonna regret not taking that decision. I'm gonna regret, that's basically what it is, right? Like, the fear that, do you think you'll regret that failure? That's it. Do you think you'll regret that failure? If you put yourself out there, making decisions is very scary, especially if you don't have examples of people who have made those decisions, right? Like, that's a big reason why I'm all about empowering young ladies who want to work on Wall Street, because you don't always see it. So if you don't see it, it's very scary to make the decision to jump into Wall Street when you've never really seen anyone and what that looks like. It can kind of freak you out. So again, when you think about regret, ask yourself, will you regret that failure? And this is a really important one to think about. One I can associate with it right now is relationships, right? A lot of the times we look at the opportunities that are out there, the people that we're talking to, and oftentimes you have the opportunity to talk about, define the relationship. What is this? A lot of times it's scary to make the jump because you're thinking, well, he checks a lot of the boxes that I've had and I've really invested some time in, but it's scary. It's scary to put your heart out there. It's very scary to be vulnerable. But at the end of the day, if you took this approach and saying, will I regret this failure? A lot of the times the opportunity in that relationship is enough. It's enough to say, you know what? Everything here seems okay. It's just me. Let me just jump. I'm not going to regret it if I fail at this, but I'm going to give it a good shot because it feels right and it feels good. And you can apply that to a lot of different things. The other method is, will you regret not having that success, right? Will you regret not getting your PhD? Will you regret deciding not to be a mother? Will you regret deciding not to get married? Will you regret deciding anything? Just think of any success, right? Like, will you regret not going after that success? So, like I said, you're going to ask yourself two things. Will I regret that failure, or will I regret not having that success? Those are two very key things to ask yourself. And when you start thinking about your decisions in this regret phase ahead of actually just going through life, sitting back and then looking back and saying, well, I really regret that I didn't go after that. Get ahead of it. You're in front of the decision. Look the decision square in the face and say, will I regret if I fail at this? Or will I regret if I don't give this a shot, right? If I don't give myself the opportunity to be successful in this, will I regret it? So those are just two things that I think are really important for you to think about. The other thing is, I know that taking risk or taking action can be really, 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 really uncomfortable. And it even makes me nervous thinking about this because the truth is that, like, whether you decide to take action or not, it's going to be uncomfortable, right? So let's take losing weight. You feel a little uncomfortable. Your clothes is a little too tight. Maybe you're running out of, your energy when you're playing with your nieces and nephews or children, or you get really tired when you're doing any kind of activity. Whatever the case may be, you're uncomfortable because you feel like you need to focus on your weight. But you're also going to be uncomfortable if you're making decisions to eat better, right? You're going to have a little bit more restraint. You're also going to be very sore because you're working out. So either way, whether you make the decision or you don't make the decision, you're going to be uncomfortable. So might as well be in a place where you're actually comfortable or uncomfortable making progress versus being uncomfortable in a place that you're making no progress. So, it's the same thing with education, right? Like, I often think about, should I go for the PhD? The papers, the long nights, thinking about all that. It's painful. But at the same time, I sit here and think, am I going to regret not going after that PhD? I see some of my peers going after it, and it's still uncomfortable. So should I be uncomfortable with zero progress, or should I be uncomfortable making progress? It's totally up to you. I mean, you really have to think about that. So again, I just want to really, really emphasize, regardless of you making the choice or not, you're going to be uncomfortable because that decision or those thoughts are already looping through your head. And so the next thing is to understand, what is your decision or lack thereof costing you? And it boils down to, you're not going to know what you want in life until you actually start making decisions. If you're just sitting back and letting society influence what you think you want, you're just going to fall into that cookie cutter box, and you're going to end up in these places where you're making decisions based on, okay, the decisions I make are either going to be right or wrong, versus coming from a place of fulfillment and really exploring and really trying to understand what it is your preferences truly are. So give yourself that opportunity to explore. You've got to get down to that. And a lot of the times you know, it could be small things, right? Like if you want to buy a new house or you want to move to a new city, instead of letting that loop in your head for 6 months, just say, you know what? I'm going to buckle down for 1 year. I'm going to stay right here in the city where I'm living. I'm going to put myself on a budget and pretend like I'm living in that new city I want to live in to see what that feels like. And boom, you get this thought process of it lingering in your head for 6 months to think, do I move or do I not? Where you're actually taking action to say, okay, if I did make that decision, the decision I'm going to make today is to pretend like I'm living in that financial situation so that I can understand if I'm going to be okay then or not, right? Do I like the way that feels? And you might discover like that budget was totally doable and it outweighs staying on that budget and being on a budget is fruitful, and you are ready to take on the benefits of that budget because you're going to get all these other benefits of the city. Or you can realize and say, you know what? I don't like being on this budget, and I realize I'm going to stay in this city because I've realized these new things. Again, just make the decision. It doesn't have to be the ultimate decision. It could be like a halfway decision that's going to give you some clarity to that new decision. Let's see. What else did I want to point out? I think that's it. I mean, I really just want to make, and I'm going to give you some action steps next, but I cannot stress enough to think about things not having to be a right decision or a wrong decision. It's really up to you how you want to feel about it. For example, if I told you, okay, Elsie's curls, you won $100,000 today. You get to decide how you want to feel about winning that $100,000. It's up to you. You can get really excited and say, heck yes, I'm going to pay off debt, or I'm going to go on a vacation, or I'm going to buy a house, or do whatever it is. Like, you can get excited. You don't physically have the money. Nothing has changed other than your mind and your feelings of, wow, I'm going to get that money, right? It's the same thing with decisions. Once you make a decision, you don't have to sit there and think, is it a good decision or is it a bad decision? It is a decision. And it's a decision to get that finer body, right? To pursue that doctorate program, to purchase that house, to decide not to be a mother, to decide I don't want to be in a marriage, or whatever those decisions are. The power is in with you to feel about it. Do not let society define right or wrong for you. There is no right or wrong. And again, like I said, I know it takes a process to think and to practice this, but once you get that into your decision-making process, it's such a relief, because you take the pressure off of the decision, and instead you put the passion inside your body to say, this feels good, or I have no freaking clue, so I'm going to take a jump and I'm going to fail at this, but I'm going to learn, and I'm going to learn something that's going to help me make smarter decisions later. So here are the action steps. Steps number 1, when you're trying to make a decision, first of all, you should list out some decisions that you know you have to make. Step number 1 is understanding the motivation behind the decision. Is there a true motivational purpose behind the decision? One easy one for me is, like I've told everyone, I really want to end generational poverty. It's a big passion of mine. I want that success. If I don't go after that success, I will regret it. And so I grew up in trailer parks when I was very young. My family are farm workers and immigrants, and so I didn't come from a whole lot. But yet I've had the privileges and the luxury of experiencing a lifestyle, not of a background of low economic means or poverty. I've been very blessed, and so I have a huge passion to build a system, because the one I think exists today doesn't work. I want to build this system to actually, end this generational poverty. It blows my mind that after 3 generations of families existing in the U.S., that they still remain in poverty. It's a system failure, and I feel like I have a plan and a strategy with building a real estate development company coupled with educational opportunities to change that. So clearly the motivation is there. When I started to list out the pros, obviously, I would love to be known for that. It's financially rewarding, and I get very passionate about it. So there's a ton of pros. The cons is where I really had a wake-up call. And Leslie, I'll put you in a live chat to ask questions as soon as I'm done. I'm almost done. So the cons is where it got me when I thought about what are the cons of starting this business, right? And like I said, it's a powerful tool to write. And I just kept writing, and I realized that I was just, for a second, I'm like, cons, and I just wrote debt, 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 debt. Like, I wrote it a million times. And I realized I was scared shitless about the amount of debt that I would be taking on. And I thought, well, I could just structure this and I could get financing, and I'm not afraid of that. And I'm like, what is it that's bothering me? And so, as you know, in true why Avilia style, why am I fearful of this debt? What is it about the debt that's bothering me? And my why got all the way down to, I have $109,000 in student loans. To leave and to start your own business is very scary when you have that amount of debt. I started to think, I'm fearful of leaving a very comfortable job where I get paid really well and I really enjoy what I do. But I was just fearful of the personal student loan debt, and then on top of that, managing the business. I felt like I was just gonna like shatter of the stress if the business wasn't going well. So I thought, I've got to take this pressure off of myself. So I decided to delay launching that whole, generational poverty ending program and system that I want to create for 2 years. And why 2 years? Because I decided that for the next 2 years, I'm going to buckle down super hard and pay off all that debt in 2 years. It's been a little challenging, but I've kept myself on a pretty tight budget. And I will start sharing on my Instagram the posts on how I'm pursuing that and the pay down, because I want to make sure that you are all empowered to make these levels of decisions, right? Maybe someone would say, well, and I'm already hearing it, and people have already asked me, well, why, spend 2 years paying off that debt? Wouldn't you just want to like keep it and then just keep living life and not be such on a tight? No, like I want that off of my mind. I don't want those decisions to be looping in my head. Get it done, get it out, and move on. So that's what I realized when I started to write the cons. And then obviously in the end, will you regret if you fail, or will you regret not having or pursuing this success? So again, those are the 4 areas for your action plan. Take your decision, figure out what's really motivating you behind that decision. Is it internal, passions versus exterior pressure? Do the pros, do the cons, and then will I regret this failure? Or will I regret if I don't go after this success? So hopefully those tools really empower you to think about decisions in a different way. I know when I first went after this, it took me a few rounds to accept the fact that I couldn't make a right or a wrong answer. It was merely a purely internal exploration of self. That took a second. And then really getting into like, am I motivated? Why am I motivated to do this decision? Is it to show to my peers that like I am successful because XYZ, or is it to show off to my family, or like what is the real motivation to make sure that it's one that's sincere? But that's it. So I hope that this was helpful for you. I will stay here and stay open to any questions that you all have. I know there was one person who wanted to tap in on this live with me. We did it last week, which was super fun. So I'll do that now. But if you have any other questions, whether it's about this decision-making process and method and strategy that we just talked about, or about any of the other teachings, is fine. But let me see if I can pull up. Oh, I guess it's not there anymore. Okay. I could be wrong, but you can put in the request again to do this like joint live, and I'll take your questions live, or you can just type them here either way. So again, thank you everyone for joining me. I really appreciate these opportunities to learn along with you. Send me messages with your feelings and your thoughts. I want to have lessons that are super relevant to you in your life and those challenges that you're facing. I'm on this journey, and I enjoy being on this journey. And I feel very lucky that we have technology like Instagram these days to connect with this community and share some of the learnings that I'm finding. Again, I'm not certified or anything like that in life coaching yet. I'm working on some of those things. I just haven't found a program that's worth the money at this point. But I'm looking into it. But yeah, are there any questions out there? More than happy to take them. Don't be afraid to be a little vulnerable. That's why everyone is on this call, to work on that path of self-improvement. Oh, good. I love to hear feedback. I never know. Sometimes y'all just leave me in the dark, and then like 2 days later, you'll DM me with information on how you enjoyed it. Any tips on how to overcome fear? Yes. So the last session on motivation actually covered fear a little bit. And what you'll realize is that fear, one, you have to get down to the why, right? So what are you fearful of? Ask yourself that question. And then the next question is why, right? And then why and why. And just keep drilling. Every time you get an answer, keep digging into why. So the motivation session will teach you exactly how to handle that. So I think one of the examples that, I can't remember which example I shared, but fear, so there are some tactics for fear. So it's one, understand the why, get down to the root cause as to why that fear exists. And sometimes it's scary because it reveals some real dirt about your life and your feelings as to why you're fearful of that. So you cannot be afraid of asking yourself the why. And then once you figure out the why, the fear behind it is that sometimes you don't know how to measure it, right? So you're afraid to take the next step because you're saying, I want to lose weight. And then you just leave it at that. Well, if you say, I want to lose weight, I want to lose 1 pound a week, great. You'll start losing that fear because it's not the unknown. It's like, okay, I have a target and this is what I'm going to go after, right? Like, for instance, I'm scared shitless that I won't pay off that debt in 2 years, and I'll have to delay my dreams for a third year. Like, I'm scared of that. It's almost like, it makes me feel like I'm not in control of my finances. And so what I do now is I know exactly how much money I should be paying every single month, including the interest, to get done on that 2-year mark. So a lot of the times fear is just because we're not addressing it. So drill down into the whys. Why am I fearful of the debt? Well, because I feel like it holds me back from pursuing my dreams. Why? Because I don't want to be in a place where I have to manage a startup and not $109,000 of debt because I don't. And then why? Because I don't have anyone to depend on. I don't have my parents that I can call for money. I don't have that. I actually help my parents. So why, right? Get down into understand, like, whoa, like that hit me. Now I really understand where that fear is stemming from, and I know exactly how to go after it. And here's my plan. Boom, every month, this would be the balance on that debt, and just crush it. Do what you need to do. Create another side hustle to help you pursue those things. So fear is usually just mostly driven by the unknown. So drill into the whys and then set some very, very specific SMART goals. If you're not familiar with SMART goals, or you're not sure how to address the fear, and you're thinking about, is it fear? Is it just the unknown of not knowing what I want in life? There's a life alignment and SMART goal setting tool. You can find the link in my bio, and that will help you out majorly. The clients that I'm working with, that really helps them. So thank you for the question. All right, let's see. I felt ashamed of going back to school because I had failed, but my regret later in life would have been not pursuing a degree. So today it was my first day of school. Ariana, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah, that fear is real, and it's regret, right? You don't want to live with that regret. That's why this decision tool of, will I be fearful of failing? And if that answer is no, well, go for it. Like, why not just put yourself out there and give yourself that experience? Or if you say, like I said, the other thing with the success factor, right? Well, I regret not having the success. And if you're kind of passive about it and you say, you know what, I'd be okay with not being successful at that. Well, then you know the answer, then you don't pursue it. So I'm very, very proud of you, Adriana, for taking that step and pursuing your passion and going after this. I hope you had a really good first day of school. Send me a weekly wrap up. Let me know how your first week went. I'd love to hear more about it. Any other questions? Okay. Miss Jessie Reyes. Question is, what if parents don't accept the choices you're making? It does not affect them at all whatsoever. They just feel the need to give their unsolicited opinion. Yes. So what that is a manifestation of their own expectations of themselves being projected unto you. Yeah, there's nothing else I can really say about that other than you're gonna have to just be strong and march to the beat of your own path. I mean, I had a girl I was mentoring, and she really wanted to study abroad, and she was in college, and her parents were so against it. They didn't want her to leave. They had this fear because they made the journey. Her parents were immigrants, and so when they made the journey to the U.S. and all the fears that they faced, they didn't want their daughter to now have all those fears and those challenges when she left to another country. But the truth is, it was just those projections of fear onto their own child. And so I think that what you need to do is I know it can be hard, and sometimes our parents aren't used to answering the whys, but I would just have a real heart to heart and be necia about it. Like, Mom, Dad, let's sit down and let's talk about why you have that opinion. And a lot of the times, like, there are parents and we take them for granted. If we just sat there and listened to their stories as to why they have those opinions, you would be surprised. I mean, we don't even do it with ourselves sometimes, much less, how can we go and put ourselves in front of our parents and say, okay, you tell me why. Like, why do you have, and be sensitive about it, because asking why is very, very uncomfortable. A lot of people don't practice it. You just take the cookie cutter box and say, this is right, this is wrong, and here it is, and let's go. Versus really sitting there and saying, I feel like you're projecting this on me. Can you help me understand why? Well, it's because, I'm fearful of this. Well, why? And be very patient with it. And I think you'll get some real solid answers. And I know it's hard. Actually, Gary Vee talked about this today too, because this week a lot of parents are leaving kids in colleges or kids at new private schools, and he basically said, have the awareness, parents, that you need to let those kids be who they need to be and not project your own expectations or your own dreams or biases on those kids. You need to. His opinion was, we need to be in a place of generational progress where we're listening to our kids and we're letting them guide us on how we can better serve them to become really rich and fulfilled lives and individuals. So that's a good question, and that's kind of what I've got floating around that thought. Any other questions? Going once. I know it takes you guys some time to type, and sometimes I get like a bubble of responses, and so I'll go back to them. But I think I got everyone's question. Yeah, looks like it. You're welcome, Miss Jessie Reyes. I hope that was helpful. All right, any other questions? Going once, going twice. All right, so that's a wrap. I will not, again, I appreciate you all so much for joining me on this journey. I look forward to connecting with you all on future sessions. You can find what dates I'll actually be hosting these Tuesday calls, or not every Tuesday because sometimes I have other things that come up, but the schedule is in the link in my bio. I will not be posting this coaching session for 24 hours live. Maybe I will. I haven't decided yet. But if you ever miss any of the coaching sessions, you can go to the link in my bio to get access to all of the lessons from 2019. So yeah, again, thanks so much. I really enjoyed this, and DM me, tag me, share with me all that you are enjoying about this, or any questions or any topics you want me to address, and I am more than happy to take your suggestions. Have a good one, everyone.